Alright, so Teen Wolf, episode 4, The Benefactor. This episode, again, full spoilers really quickly before I get too far into it. This episode begins immediately after Muted. We see that Sheriff Stilinski and the police department are checking out the crime scene where Sean was murdered by the Mute on top of the hospital. And after he kicks everybody off the roof, we find out that Derek is his supernatural advisor for the time. So they're trying to piece together what happened. Next, and in the next sequence, we find out that Scott had kidnapped Liam. And basically took him to his house and duct taped him. And then, while trying to explain what happened to him, Liam, basically runs away. Around the same time, we also see that Peter is in Derek's loft, and he's nearly killed by the Mute. He manages to fight him off, but the Mute manages to throw one of his tomahawks at him, and it's laced with wolfsbane. And then shortly thereafter, later in the episode, we see that Derek is trying to heal him, so he gets the blowtorch out. He says he has to burn it out, and so it's a loud thing where he burns it out. But we find out that through him struggling for his life, Peter managed to rip the guy's glove off, the Mute's glove off, where he had a keyboard so he could talk. So. Or he left it there. I'm not 100% sure on that. So, the question for a while is whether or not Liam's going to live or not, whether he could die. And so there's a lot of things going on all at the same time at school. Lydia's trying to figure out the cipher that was in her notes before because she thinks it's something important. And we find out that her mom's giving her the keys to her beach house, where they're going to chain up Malia and attempt to chain up Liam for the full moon, because the full moon's that night. So first because Liam doesn't want anything to do with Scott and Stiles, they try to come up with a way to get Liam to go to we try to find out a way to get Liam to go to the beach house, which they comically use Kira saying she's a vixen, which is a female fox, and saying be a vixen. And so she's trying to be all seductive walking down the stairs, and she falls, which is one of the funnier portions of the episode. I'm going to do all of, instead of hopping around, I'm going to do all of what happens with Derek and the sheriff, and then we'll get back to Scott and all them. So they use the keyboard and the glove from the Mute to track where he was using his Wi-Fi from. And he was using it by tapping into the school's Wi-Fi. So they rationalizes that they're going to go to the school. So when Derek and the sheriff go to the school, they see what looks like a puddle of blood, but then upon further investigation, it's a trap with Claymore on the other side. And at that point, the Mute shows up, and him and Derek get in a fight. Derek gets the upper hand, holds both his arms behind his back, and Sheriff Stilinski attempts to arrest him, which he says is probably one of the funniest things, which didn't even get a beat, which I thought was weird in this episode, which, the Mute, he can't talk, he has, a thing over his mouth, and he, Sheriff Stilinski, says the first two lines of the Miranda rights, which is, you have the right to remain silent, and anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, which is funny, because he's a Mute. But then we see that Peter showed up, and Peter just brutally murders him, and then walks away, which Derek was like, we found another way, and he says, I'm a creature of habit. So, I guess Peter just wanted revenge. And that's literally all that really happened with that, was that they found out that, the Mute's not just a murderer, he's an assassin. He's being paid to do all this. So Kira takes Liam to Lydia's house, in which she says they're going to a party. So he tells his friend Garrett, who's one of his friends, and basically they end through that. A party ends up coming up at Lydia's house. So Scott and Kira take Liam to the boat, to the actual boathouse, and Stiles takes Malia downstairs while Lydia is forced to throw a party. While at the party, she goes upstairs, and after a little incident upstairs, she starts hearing the voices, and eventually we discover that the voices are telling her what the keyword is to the cipher, which at the very end of the episode we find out that it's Allison, and we find out that it's a Deadpool, that the list is a Deadpool, a hit list for all the supernatural creatures in Beacon Hills. With Stiles and Malia starts to turn, and she doesn't want to hurt Stiles, so she tells him to go away, but Stiles uses her memories of you don't want to do this. Remember what happened to your family. And he starts going over what was going on with him when he was possessed by the Magitsune, and it causes her to change back. And then finally, the last bit is at the boathouse. Scott and Kira are watching Liam. They manage to knock him out and tie him up, and then they dance, and Kira gets all seductive and whatnot, and then they find out Liam has woken up, and then he runs off with Scott in pursuit. And so we find out earlier in the episode that Liam has anger issues, so that's not good that he's a werewolf, because you have to have control over all that. But so that only makes things worse. So he manages to find Scott out in the woods, and he's angry. He's gonna kill Scott because he blames him for what happened. But Scott's saved by a flash arrow, which we find out that Chris Argent got his text. So he says Liam should be corralled into a clearing up ahead. Go talk to him. Be you, don't be anybody else. Because the entire episode, Scott's been trying to use other ways of explaining Liam's condition to him. First off, when they kidnap him, he's trying to be subtle about it, whereas at the school, he tries to quote what Derek said to him in the very first episode, which I thought was really funny. Again, another reference to season 1 or 2. But he finally convinces him, and he's like, "You're not a monster," because Liam's like, I can't see my parents because I'm a monster," and Scott tells him he's not a monster, and that's the end of that. And the last thing that happens is that we find out that Garrett, who is Liam's friend, and his girlfriend are also hitmen, assassins. Okay, yeah, they're assassins, and she kills the beer delivery guy with the keg, and so we find out that they're getting paid to kill people, and so that's the episode. I thought this is a step in the right direction. I thought the last episode lacked a lot. I know it was a good plot episode, but not a lot happened. This one was a little bit more happened. It was definitely a more plot-driven episode. It's nice to see the old Peter back, because he kind of snaps and goes all psychotic murderer again when he kills the mute. And I just thought that was cool that they brought that back. And we see a lot more Derek, and everybody knew that Liam was going to live, but we finally find out that, hey, Liam's alive, so I thought, that was really cool. But, yeah, all in all, this was just, it's an interesting, because it's your standard full moon episode that Teen Wolf does every once in a while, except, it's not Scott dealing with it, or somebody else, you know what I mean? It's new characters dealing with it. And you finally get to see Malia, transform, which she looks alright. It's about as good as it can get with her. And the last thing I want to talk about, which isn't even part of the episode, was I was watching Wolf Watch, which is the after show. I said, why not? Because I actually like the show enough that, and I like to hear what the actors have to say about stuff. And during behind the scenes segment, Colton Haynes was there, and there's been a lot of speculation on that, and so I just wanted to put my thoughts on that. Is that Colton Haynes, unless he's coming back for like Wolf Watch or something like that, he's not there to stay. He might show up maybe for an episode or maybe a cameo or maybe the end of the season. Like they're like, we need help and then we need more help and then Jackson comes back. That's literally the only way I see him coming back. But it's not permanent. If he came back, it wouldn't be permanent. So a lot of people are gonna get really, really sad about that. But I mean, it's the truth. So yeah, it's a good episode. Can't wait for next week. You know, this is another episode of why I love this show so much. So, yep. Now, see you guys later.